Welcome, everybody. I'm going to start us off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Leo, will you lead us first?
Oh, there. Right there.
Right over here to the right, your left.
Yes.
Join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay. That brings us to the roll call, man.
Hey, Chair Mashburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Vice Chair Whitson,
Yes.
Supervisor Hume, Supervisor Burgess,
Here.
Supervisor Ding,
Here.
Supervisor Provenza, absent. Board Member Miller, Gail Miller is absent. Board Member Martin, Amanda.
Here.
Welcome. Board Member Udang.
Here.
Lillian. Board Member Matsumoto is absent. Ex officio members, do we have any ex officio members on the line?
Bruce Blodgett.
Bruce, we've got you down there. Liaison Advisor Kohler,
Yes, here.
Marge, Liaison Advisor James Waters, I see you.
Here.
Are there any other liaison advisors on the line? Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 votes. We have enough to move forward.
This year.
I called that.
Okay.
I just wanted to quickly mention, we're very excited today to be able to take board members and members of the public who have signed up and staff out to Web Tract and Little Holland Tract. I want to thank the counties, California Department of Fish and Wildlife for providing boats to facilitate that. It's really going to be exciting to be able to get out and see those projects. And so just want to make sure everybody is aware of that. As a result of that, we won't have our standard updates for the Stewardship Council, the Delta Protection Commission, Delta Conveyance, and Eco Restore. And we need to try to get to the votes by 11 o'clock. So obviously we want to make sure we are thorough and do our due diligence, but we also want to try to keep things moving along. So Supervisor Chair Mashburn is going to drive the train here.
We're going to move it fast. We're going to drive it like we stole it. All right. Which brings us to public comment. Do we have any comment from the public? Anybody out there like to comment to the board on anything that's not on the agenda for consideration today? Seeing none. All right, that moves us to the consent calendar, which is an action item.
Motion to approve.
But let me ask real quick for public comment on consent. Anybody out there in internet land? No? All right. I have a motion to
Let me
approve.
think about it. Motion approved.
Do I have a second out there somewhere?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor? Oh, we're gonna have to do a roll call. Yeah, because
There's a lot of roll.
there's a lot of.
Okay,
roll
let's
call
get ready.
today.
We have Burgess, motion, Winternitz, second. Supervisor Mashburn,
All right,
Vice Chair Winternitz, sorry about that. Vice Chair Winternitz,
Yes.
Supervisor Burgess,
Aye.
Supervisor Ding,
Aye.
Board Member Martin. Aye. Board Member Udang.
Aye.
We have 6 votes. Aye, the motion carries.
all right. You're at boss.
Okay, again, I'll try to be very brief. You've got the report. One thing that's not in the report is that the SB 143 has passed, and that is the new rules for Bagley Keene. We are trying to really sort out what the new rules for Bagley Keene look like. It appears that the process that we have been using prior to COVID, where board members have to notice their location if they want to participate remotely and they need to make that place accessible, is likely the easiest way to continue to comply with Bagley Keene. So we're waiting for further guidance, but for now, our plan is that we will use the old guidance for the January meeting. Board members are welcome to participate remotely, but we will have to notice that location and make sure that that's publicly accessible. So we'll follow the guidance as it comes out, but that's sort of just our expectation at this point.
Through the chair.
Yes, ma'am.
The one thing that has struck me about the new Joaquin is that if you are joining by remote, even if there's a quorum in the room and your video fails, the whole meeting stops.
Yes.
So I think that we need to make sure that those that want to opt in to this understand the consequences for all the staff time and all the people time should their signal fail or they go off camera for whatever reason.
Right.
And so I think, because I've seen it happen, we really need to make sure people understand those consequences.
And I do believe that that's kind of one of the main reasons that we're thinking, let's just use the old, you have the option of complying under the old or the new.
Okay,
So I think for that very reason, we'll try to just do what we've done in the past. You've participated before, we notice it, your office is publicly accessible, anybody can, and then we're in compliance and we don't have to worry about those issues. We'll see, I mean, there's a lot of people, lawyers looking at this to what does this really mean?
yeah,
And I think we'll learn more, but I think at least for the January meeting, that's.
yeah,
right.
the other part of it is that you have to be on camera the whole
Right.
time.
Yeah, you can't-
And,
Yeah.
so for those of us that, like to turn our cameras off when we can, we're gonna have to be aware of those things.
Correct.
Amanda Martin has her hand up. Board Member Martin.
Yeah, I just agree with everything that was said, but I just want to flag, 143 was what allowed us to continue meeting. SB 544 is the one that has the new rules in it. So just wanted to clarify that. And yes, agree with going back to the old rules, because if something fails and there's still a quorum, then you can keep going. So look forward to everyone sorting that out.
Okay, continuing on, ethics certifications are due. If you have not provided it, please reach out to us or do so by December 31st. Quick note about the Delta Drought Response Pilot Program. All the majority of the projects have now completed their water conservation practices, except for the 6 that the board approved at the last meeting that will continue for the next couple of years. The oversight committee is beginning to look at all the data coming in from this year. We'll do the analysis and we'll produce a report that will be out, much like last year's report on the program, will be out in early spring of 2024. Nothing really new to report about the budget. As we reported last time, there is $6 million in wildfire prevention. Staff has been out looking throughout the Delta, talking to independent fire districts, communities, and other resource managers in the Delta to really figure out how we could best, what things we could actually fund with that money. And that's been very fruitful. And so we anticipate kind of putting that all together and bringing to the board a solicitation notice for approval at the January meeting. And then we would open that solicitation shortly thereafter. We've added a new section here, the administrative update. Thought it was a way to highlight the heroic efforts of our excellent administrative staff. So there's quite a few notes here. We did participate in 2 Delta cleanups on September 23rd. We had over 50 volunteers, pulled out quite a bit of stuff out of the Delta. We also participated in, of course, the Sacramento-San Delta Week, including hosting a booth at the Capitol Mall farmers market, and did a lot of social outreach there. We've completed a couple different trainings all across the staff, empathy and awareness for the disability community, and CPR and first aid. And also the other, quite a few, there's notes there about the different types of reporting that's been completed. As a state agency, we have a tremendous amount of reporting that needs to get done, so we want to start to recognize that. And then also created an Instagram account. And as of October 16th, we have 117 followers. And probably most importantly of all the notes, Brenda Lusk, our administrative manager, welcomed their 4th child into the family on September 2nd. Mom and baby and family are all doing well, and she'll be coming back from maternity leave in April. One last note on that, it's not in your packet, but several years ago, we had a Proposition 1 audit, a very thorough analysis of everything that we've done for Proposition 1. And we've gone through the process. There were some findings, relatively minor findings, but findings. We've done all the corrective action. Was incredible burden, not burden, but incredible workload for staff. Tremendous amount of work, but all that has been done. Final analysis, we just received our final report that basically says you're done, you're good, and your corrective action plan has been approved. So that's really an amazing effort on staff, and great to see that we're in that space now. So for Delta Science, just wanted to mention that the Fish Friendly Farming Group put on a workshop on Staten Island to showcase their recirculation pump. It was a great opportunity. We had probably a dozen local farmers out there looking at the pump, the structure, and talking about the cost and how it works and the benefits. So it was a real great opportunity. There is a YouTube of it that you can check out if you're interested. Moving on, the Delta Restoration Forum. We've talked about that quite a bit through time. The second Restoration Forum is next week, November 2nd. It's going to be at the Ride Hotel in the evening. We actually currently have 95 registered participants. There's going to be about 20 presenters at different locations interacting with the community. And just it's an opportunity again for the community to really come in and interact on Delta restoration, what's in planning, what's happening, and what are opportunities and what are constraints. So we're co-hosting that with the Delta Stewardship Council and really looking forward to that event. Also, another event coming up is the Delta Invasive Species Symposium for 2023. I just want to mention that Rachel Wigington on our staff has been involved heavily in planning both the Delta Restoration Forum as well as the Delta Invasive Species Symposium. This year, the symposium focus is going to be making connections and understanding the connectivity in the invaded estuary. It'll be November 30th, and it'll be at the Resources Agency. Couple quick media mentions. The California Ag Alert had an article about the Delta Drought Response Pilot Program, and then the Vallejo Times also talked about the Delta Week. There were no directives to staff at the last board meeting, and the correspondence that's listed there is the same one that was listed at the October meeting. Not much has changed there, but it is an issue that Metropolitan Water District is very aware of and will continue to engage on as they do planning to do the restoration for web track. So I'll pause there for any questions on program, and then we'll kick it over to Jessica for an update on the budget. Any questions? Great, hearing none. Go ahead, Jessica.
Budget as promised, expenditures not as promised, and I'm sorry about that. We have an agency that does our high-level accounting, and it's within Department of General Services, and they are very far behind. So we didn't get our reports for July until the last week of September, and we didn't have time to reconcile them. Before we put out, we had to have our deadline. So budget-wise, again, as Campbell had mentioned, the only 23-24 changes are the wildfire budget of $6 million. Of that, 5% is administrative. So you'll see in line 36, under grants, we do have $5,700,000 available for wildfire grants for this current fiscal year. We obviously have our general funds. We have a small fund from the license plate fund that funds our facilities. And we have Prop 1 and Prop 68 support funds that make up our budget along with the wildfire. So I promise at the next meeting to have an expenditure update for you all. Is there any questions? Great, thanks.
That concludes the executive officer report. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That brings us to our ecosystem restoration and climate adaptation grant program update.
Morning, everyone. My name is Angie Shakya. I'm an environmental scientist with Delta Conservancy. Today, I'll be presenting agenda item 6, the Ecosystem Restoration and Climate Adaptation Grant Program update. This is on page 19 of your board packet. On the bottom of the page here, you'll see a breakdown of the funding sources that make up the ERICA grant program, along with their funding availability. These include Proposition 1, climate access and restoration, and nature-based solutions, wetland restoration. So to start with an update on the nature-based solutions, wetland restoration for NBS funding program on page 20. This program made up to $36 million available with the goal of funding projects that restore, conserve, and protect landscapes and promote climate resilience for wetlands in the Delta. At our May board meeting, the Wetland Mosaic Landscape on Web Track project was approved, and today we're bringing 3 additional NTS projects for your consideration. These will be presented during agenda items 9, 10, and 11. There are currently 17 active projects within the ERICA program, and since the last board meeting, the Delta Conservancy received 3 amendment requests. These were all approved earlier this morning on the consent calendar. The Knightson Wetland Restoration Project requested a scope of work change. The Lower San Joaquin Riparian Corridor Project requested a 1-year extension to their grant funding term. And the Oakley Creekside Park Restoration Project requested a 1-year extension to their remaining project update, specific updates can be found on page 21, listed in the new information section for each project. And as Campbell mentioned earlier, we do have site visits following this meeting. We'll have the opportunity to hear from a few representatives from projects within the Ecosystem Restoration and Climate Adaptation Program. We'll have presentations from Metropolitan Water District about the Wetland Mosaic Landscape on Web Track project. And we'll also hear from Contra Costa Resource Conservation District on the Little Franks Tract invasive weed removal and restoration project. So moving on to closed projects. These can be found on page 28 for those following along. I'll highlight 2 projects that have recently closed. Photos and summaries for these are on page 34. Firstly, phase 2 of the Paradise Cut Conservation and Flood Management Project. This advanced planning for expansion of the Paradise Cut Flood Bypass by building up local support for both the expansion and future restoration activities. $3 million of funding was secured for a future feasibility study, and the San Joaquin RCD, they're the grantee for this project. They turned over future work on the project to the San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency. So that's how that one closed out. And then the second project I'll highlight today is the restoration planning at River Garden Farms. This project involved the coordination of several NGOs to conduct in-depth restoration planning for riparian and wetland areas within working farmlands along the Sacramento River. So during their grant term, the project team conducted local outreach. They investigated the natural and cultural histories of the area and developed site-specific restoration plans. As a result, final planning and implementation of several of their riparian areas is underway, and American Rivers, the grantee for this project, used information gathered from the planning grant to draft and submit another grant proposal to the Bureau of Reclamation. So $10 million was awarded to them for the restoration of 200 acres of floodplain habitat within that project area. So full final reports for those 2 projects and all of our closed projects are available upon request. That concludes the ERICA program update, and thanks for your time. I can take your questions.
Any questions from the board or from the public out there in internet land? No? All right. That brings us to, thank you, ma'am. That brings us to the Community Enhancement Grant Program update.
Good morning. My name is Maya Garrett, and I'm the Conservancy's Ecological and Community Program Analyst. I'm here to present agenda item 7, the Community Enhancement Grant Program Update, which is on page 37 of your agenda packet. The Community Enhancement Program, or CEP, is funded through a $12 million allocation of Proposition 68 and 2 general fund allocations of Climate Access and Resource, or CAR funds totaling $11.4 million. The program accepts proposals on an ongoing basis and is actively seeking proposals for the open solicitation. We are also aware of several potential projects currently working on their proposals. Currently, there is $4.7 million available in Proposition 68 funding and $17,000 available in CAR funds. However, we are considering awarding $257,000 in Proposition 68 funds today. This report highlights the projects funded through the CEP, and I'm happy to report that we have 12 executed grants. The projects are detailed on pages 38 through 42 of the agenda packet. But to provide a highlight, the Pacific Flyway Walk in the March project has completed permits. In addition to these projects, we have 1 amendment request for consideration today. Agenda item 8, the Asian American Heritage Park project. Details about the proposal can be found on page 44 of your agenda packet. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Any questions from the board, public? Any questions from those folks online? Seeing none. Thank you, ma'am. All right, we are on to the consideration of amendment to budget for community enhancement grant program agreement for the Asian American Heritage Park. Action item.
You're good at this.
Okay, good morning, board members. My name is Martha Ozenoff, and I'm the Conservancy's Community Project Supervisor. I'm here to present for board consideration a recommendation to amend Proposition 68 funding for Project ID 6811, the Asian American Heritage Park Project. This item can be found on pages 44 through 46 of your agenda packet. The grantee has requested an additional $265,799. Conservancy staff are making two recommendations for the board's consideration. One is that the board approve an amendment to increase the project budget by up to $256,590, which is $9,209 below the requested amount. And the second is to approve at a lesser amount and ask the grantee to find cost savings and reduce the scope or secure additional funding. Staff wanted to bring this issue forward as two recommended motions for consideration, given the changing context of Conservancy funds and the nuances presented by this particular grant. When considering existing concept and full proposals, the Conservancy has almost fully expended current grant funds. The overarching question to the board as presented in consideration of this request is, should the Conservancy require grantees to reduce costs and provide cost share to maximize the remaining funds? The project is the creation and construction of a 0.1 acre Asian American Heritage Park in the city of Ileton that includes cultural elements like a Conchoto bell tower, reflection fountain, and other park features. The total project cost would now be $820,571. The amount requested by the grantee represents a 48% increase of the total award for inflationary costs, prevailing wage requirements, unforeseen project elements, permits, and changes in subcontractors. The grantee initially prepared the project budget in 2021, and costs have increased significantly during the intervening years. While these costs have gone up across the board for all grantees, most grantees are requesting less than a 30% increase. 48% increase is the second highest staff has received. In addition, when requesting large increases, previous grantees have reduced costs, reduced scope, or sought additional cost share funding. The current grantee has indicated that they cannot reduce the cost, scope, or additional funding. Staff has prepared two suggested motion language for the board's consideration. The first suggested motion language amends the budget to include all additional costs with the exception of the $9,209. Unjustified costs. The difference between the amount requested by the grantee and the recommended amount is due to inadequate documentation to support all signage costs and a selection of one of construction management and oversight contractors. The second motion language approves a lesser amount and directs the grantee to pursue alternative funding sources or additional cost saving measures to offset the increase in cost. Before we move to the motions, I'll pause here for questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Is someone here representing the project? Yes. Would you like to add anything before we ask more questions?
We do have several issues that we would address, we would like to address. So, as far as some of the, like the cost sharing, we have done a lot of cost sharing with this project. Probably close to $50,000 or $60,000 worth. We have a lot of pro bono work. The lot was donated. That was $25,000. The Delta Protection Commission funded a feasibility study that supported the project. And we had the Conchoto plans and the engineering and architectural plans donated to the park. We also had for probably close to 8 to 10 months. We had RHAA, the architectural landscaping firm out of Mill Valley, and Lisa Clark, the interpretive designer, worked on designing this park for several months via Zoom, pro bono. They didn't charge us any money for that work. And the other thing is we've sold all of the benches, the commemorative benches for the park, which all have some historical significance. And then we've also sold some of the bricks. We have not aggressively gone out and promoted the bricks because we weren't too sure if we're gonna get funded or not, because if we weren't, then we would have to refund money to people. But the benches have been sold. So far, we brought in over $20,000 worth of benches and the commemorative bricks. And the other thing is we've had other pro bono work done. We had brought in contractors to help us with some of the costs for the conchodo and the concrete. We also brought in electrical contractor to help us with the application with PG&E and putting in new electrical. All these things were done without cost. And I think the other thing that, I mean, we've been reducing costs. First of all, this whole project started in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. So it was pretty challenging. Of course, everything was on Zoom. So-
All of those things that you've said have been donated or you've gotten, were those a part of the budget that you provided for the original grant? Were those things?
No, they weren't budgeted.
They weren't captured in there.
What was that?
They weren't captured in there. They're not represented in that.
No, because.
With a dollar
it was
figure.
It was donated, and
Gotcha.
But you didn't like have it in your budget as in kind, that would be a part of your whole budget.
We don't have in kind in our budget. We do have cost share, but we often counsel, we like to see robust community support like this and in kind, but the actual cost share can sometimes be hard to track, so.
Okay, so
The
you don't,
budget, it would have been in the proposal talking about,
the design and all of
and
that
stuff.
would be
Yeah,
listed as,
yeah.
it'd be listed as what, not in kind?
It'd be listed as community support,
Okay.
yeah.
And it wouldn't have a value?
It might have a dollar figure. I'd have to go back and look at the proposal. It probably would have had a dollar figure associated with it, but then they've had other, as the project has moved forward, you know, it's such a
It kind of
community-based project.
Blooms and you
Yes,
discover new things and all of that.
yeah.
Do we have a time frame of these kind of grants that things have to be done? I mean, we're seeing a lot of these requests for increases in because of inflationary costs. But I mean, do we have a time limit on or a expectation of when these projects should be done when we do these grants?
Yeah, I mean, we do have the grant term is typically 3 years, oftentimes, or well, maybe 50-50. There'll be an extension request. This grant is actually not asking for a request to extend the grant. It's just for funding.
Yeah, and
So,
it was awarded in 22.
yeah, it was, yeah, the proposal was written in 2021 and then 2022.
Okay, thank you.
Executed in,
Thank you.
approved in March, I will say.
Any other questions from the board? Anything else?
I do have a question. Jane, can you remind me, obviously the concerto is kind of the central keystone element to the whole thing. How many bids did you receive for that particular piece or overall?
the conchodo is part of the overall bid of the park, so it's not separated out.
Okay, and how many bids did you receive then for general construction?
We got 2 bids in, so we sent out 15 bids. 5 agreed to bid on the project and 2 came in.
Okay, and of those 2, the requested amount reflects the lower of the 2 bids?
And also, It came in pretty close in cost.
Okay.
Are there any other grants available for this type of work?
Well,
Has that been
I
explored?
didn't, this grant goes back 15 years, so, yeah, looking for grants in the last 15 years, we haven't been able to find any type of grant to fund this project. And we were fortunate that the Prop 68 funds became available. When the Delta Protection Commission did the feasibility study in 2018, they really supported this project as not only historically, educationally, but also revitalization for Ileton's, Ileton. And anyway, it's a, unfortunately, the project, this project honors the Japanese and Chinese who once lived on Main Street. And Main Street is now on the National Register as a historic district. And all the signage in the park reflects their history. And I should also mention that every part of the park is actually tied to some history of Ileton. Even the sign that's gonna go up in the front of the park, originally the sign was that said Chinese playground in Chinese character. And the architects were able to reconstruct that sign based on a photo and actually duplicated the exact sign. It's gonna say Asian American Heritage Park. But that all happened during the pro bono work of the architects. And they became very passionately involved with this project too, because the founder of the architectural firm RHAA was founded in the 50s by Hanamoto, who was also interned during the internment and started this architectural firm.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jim. Martha, when is the completion due date for this project?
You know, Maya, I think it's, Sharon,
I believe March of 2025.
2025, that's what I think, yeah.
March of
I've
20,
been working with Gene on this project since we started the proposal.
so in about 2 years or so.
We're hoping to have it constructed next year.
So that's my second question is, if we awarded the grant for 256,590, which is 9,000 less than what you're asking, would you be able to still complete the project, or where would you come up with the extra money?
So as Jean noted, she has done fundraising so far, but the point of that money was to be able to maintain the park, to have a reserve both for maintenance, for marketing, for events and things like that. So to the extent that you reduce the money, and I'll explain a couple things about that as well, it means there's less towards that. We don't know ultimately what else she'll be able to raise because she's sold like the big items so far. The rest are, donor bricks at $500 each. And, we have gold, but we don't know. I will point out that on the signage, for example, our original estimate after 100% plans, because the original budget was based on 60% plan, was $60,000. We then reduced it through other vendors to $39,000. And then in October, we went back and we reduced it to $26,900, which is $6,000 above the very original budget. So for the extra $2,000, we would love to have that. That would be very helpful. It's based on real, actual estimates. And in terms of the construction oversight, which is the other $6,500, it's Gene and me. We were hoping to have a general contractor who can monitor day-to-day progress. Our landscape architect is in the Bay Area. So those are the reasons for this.
I guess my question is, Would you be able to sufficiently complete your project if we awarded the 256? What would suffer from
Well,
it?
we have discussed that. We would probably, the only thing we could probably leave out would be the landscape.
I guess we try and make it work. Because we have to.
Kind of in follow-up to that, you know, obviously, if you have to reimagine the puzzle pieces, is there anything about the elements of the design for which you have received bids? And particularly, I know, again, I keep coming back to Conservancy because I know that there's a lot of expense there, a lot of material that is being very specifically called out. Is there any way to shave some of those costs in order to make up?
Actually, if you look at the bid, it came at a lower cost,
Then what?
quite a bit.
And what we had originally thought it would cost.
When the budget was 553,000?
Then other things came up higher than you expected, so.
And there were many other elements like PG&E and permit costs and things that we couldn't have anticipated.
In the inflationary costs have played into it, and then prevailing wage was also a shift.
A 48% increases, I think you said the highest we've ever,
The second highest.
second highest that we've ever received. Personally, as someone that's received grants and written grants and done projects with folks, you know, I usually don't put all my eggs in one basket as far as my grant funding. And so I'm curious to, you know, that there's other buckets of money to pull from. And, you know, I hear from folks that are grantees and they have to do the same thing. They have to go looking for other monies as well. So, that's just my observations.
Oh, we got hands up.
I just have a quick question. I know you talked to your architect, has family who was interned, or perhaps he was interned. Is there internment elements to the park? Because I know there's a lot of federal funding specifically for Japanese internment sites and internment heritage sites that some local folks in San Joaquin County, for example, are going after right now. And they seemingly have been successful with relative ease. I'm just curious if that is a possible path also that you've considered.
I'm sorry, did you ask if there was an interment element in the park?
Yes, ma'am.
There is. Actually, if you walk through the park, there's actually 10 interpretive signs. So if you look at the entry sign, it talks about the Japanese American community and the Chinese American community. And in the Japanese American community description, it talks about the internment. They were removed from Ileton in 1942. So if you look at also the interpretive signs up through the walkway, those signs reflect the history of the Chinese and Japanese who were there. There's an interpretive sign on Executive Order 9066. There's another sign on 442nd. We also have other signs like Chinese Exclusion Act, 1882, Alien Land Law Act, Paper Sun. So as you go through this park, those documents reflect the history of the Japanese and Chinese once occupied the park. So there is the reason why the Kanshodo, I wanted the Kanshodo was in Ileton, during internment, the Japanese lost their Buddhist church. There is still a Buddhist church there, but it's a Christian church now. But during that time, they removed the bell from the Ileton Buddhist Church and took it to the Walnut Road Buddhist Church for safekeeping. Because there was a lot of vandalism going on during the internment. And this is kind of a unique story. when Walnut Grove came back from the internment, they decided to keep the Ileton bell, the church bell, and they stored the Walnut Grove bell. So they just found that bell a couple of years ago, and that bell is going into the Concho bell. And it's gonna be hanging in the Concho bell.
Okay, and so do you have anybody in your committee or in your group who are affiliated with a local JACL, a Japanese American Citizens League? I know that the approach in San Joaquin County was not just based on the Stockton and Lodi JACLs, but was stretched to the Bay Area JACL as well for application for federal funds for Japanese internment heritage site work, similar to sort of what you're describing. Have you connected with anybody in that community yet?
No, because the park is not just for the internment in Japanese American. It is for the Chinese and Japanese American.
Yeah, so what I'm just curious if it may be useful to reach out to a JACL and ask if there are partnerships to be able to bring in funding to help honor that portion of the history that you're trying to represent in your site.
I think she's pointing out there's multiple grant opportunities if you tap into those types of partnerships. Is that right, Lily? Okay.
I think everybody's looking for a way to help you bridge that $9,000 gap. Really, is what everybody's getting at around the table here. I got one for you too. APAPA, which is the Asian Pacific Islanders Association. Their founder is CCN. He lives in Solano County. He's very familiar with Ileton. He's right there. I'd reach out to him and Regina.
I'm very
I know
generous.
CC very well.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I did reach out to CC a few years ago to help fund the park. So, and actually CC, APAPA is a supporter of this project.
Okay, good.
As well as the Chinese Historical Society, the Japanese American Historical Society. We have a lot of agencies that are supporting this project. But yes, CCN,
You'll buy a lot of bricks. Just saying.
he can buy a brick for each of his McDonald's.
Right?
Right.
All right, well, I would also just add that, if there was ever a spot in the Delta that could use a community gathering place and a little bit of a lift, I'd say it would be Ileton.
Amen.
And so, I can say that I will be in support of this, but I'll leave it to the rest of the board. Is there any more questions online? No? Any more questions from the public? Sir?
No, I'll second that motion for discussion, and I will pledge if the will of the board is to accept staff's recommendation, I'll find the other $9,200.
Thank you, Supervisor. I appreciate that, sir.
Let me get that in the notes.
I'll help you with that.
That was off the record.
Yeah. All right, so we have a motion, we have a second, we have a roll call, please.
Would you like me to read the motion language?
Sure, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, move that the board approve and award additional funding up to $256,590 to the Delta Educational Cultural Society from the Proposition 68 grant funds for the Asian American Heritage Park.
What she said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a motion from Ashburn, a second from Hume. Chair Ashburn,
All right,
Vice Chair Winter,
Yes.
Supervisor Hume,
Aye.
Supervisor Burgess,
Yes.
Supervisor Ding,
No.
Board Member Udang,
Aye.
Board Member Martin. Amanda, sorry.
Aye.
Aye. Have any other board members come online? I should check. No. Okay, so we have 6 ayes, 1 nay. The motion carries.
so that brings us to consideration of the thank you, y'all. Consideration of the California Environmental Quality Act Lead Agency Exemption Declaration and Award of Nature-Based Solutions, Wetland Restoration Grant Fund for the Delta Rice Conversion Program. That was fine.
Okay, good morning. My name is Lauren Damon. I'm the Ecosystem Restoration Climate Adaptation Supervisor, also known as the ERICA program. I have 3 presentations for you today that Rachel's going to be helping me with, so I'll try to be as brief as possible, but there's a significant amount to cover, so we'll just hang in there. So the first one is for consideration agenda item 9, a recommendation to award nature-based solutions wetland restoration grant funding for the Delta Rice Conversion Program. The project is proposed by the Nature Conservancy and can be found starting on page 47 of your agenda packet. Conservancy staff recommends that the board approve the lead agency findings and then 2 requests to waive recording of the landowner access agreements and the 15-year maintenance standard, and then award up to $4,333,124 in grant funding for this program. The proposed project seeks to convert at least 3,500 acres and up to 7,500 acres of existing agriculture to wildlife-friendly rice. Rice cultivation will halt organic soil subsidence and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Deeply subsided islands in the Delta are a contributor to climate change and pose flooding risks to communities and agricultural land. This project will achieve its goals by using rice cultivation to re-wet the landscape, a well-studied method to stopping subsidence and halting greenhouse gas emissions from areas with highly organic peat soils. During this project, the Nature Conservancy will conduct outreach and execute contracts directly with willing landowners to cover the costs of converting their existing crops to wildlife-friendly rice. Interested landowners will have 2 enrollment options, either a partial reimbursement of conversion costs for a 3-year commitment to cultivate rice or a full reimbursement of conversion costs for a 5-year commitment. As part of the contracts, the landowners will agree to strategically flood their fields to optimize climate benefits and wildlife benefits, specifically migratory birds. Outreach and enrollment will include community education with the ultimate goal of increasing the Delta community's interest in rice cultivation. Given the environmental benefits of rice, the availability of fresh water in the Delta, and the current market value of rice, rice cultivation is a win-win scenario for the Delta and its communities. The Nature Conservancy has already initiated outreach efforts and has received numerous letters of support from the community and letters of interest in enrollment in the program. They have received support from the California and San Joaquin County Farm Bureaus, the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors, the Delta Counties Coalition, and numerous environmental organizations. For equity and inclusion, the program will target farmers that would not otherwise be able to afford the cost of conversion. Additionally, to make the program accessible to more farmers and ensure adequate enrollment, the applicant is seeking to waive recording of landowner access agreements and waive the 15-year maintenance standard. Staff have evaluated both of these requests and are recommending that the waivers are approved. A policy for recording the landowner access agreements, for waiving the recording of landowner access agreements was adopted by this board in October of 2022. A summary of the policy and the analysis of risk can be found on pages 50 and 51 of your agenda packet. Staff have determined that the risk of waiving this requirement is low, given that landowners desire to convert their land into rice-ready condition and are therefore unlikely to undo the conversions. Staff also assessed the request to waive the 15-year maintenance standard, although there is no formal policy to do this in place at this time. The assessment can be found on page 51 and 52 of your agenda packet. The 15-year maintenance standard is a requirement of bond-funded projects, but is not a requirement of general fund projects. Although the Delta Conservancy has adopted this standard for all projects as a best practice. For the proposed program, staff have determined that it's infeasible for farmers to comply with this standard, especially given that crops require rotation at least every 3 to 5 years. The applicant and staff predict low to no enrollment in the program with this standard in place, therefore putting the public benefits that will be received by the proposed program at risk if the waiver is not approved. I'm now going to hand it off to Rachel Wigginton to discuss environmental compliance and permitting.
Thanks, Lauren. Good morning, board members. My name is Rachel Wigginton. I'm Senior Environmental Scientist with the Conservancy. I'm going to speak to you about the CEQA and permitting components of the projects this morning. So the Delta Rice Conversion Program is considered a project under the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA. As the public agency with the principal responsibility for approving the project, the Delta Conservancy will be the CEQA lead agency. Based on our review of the materials submitted by the applicant, staff have concluded the project is exempt from environmental review under CEQA, which categorically exempts certain projects from environmental review, including minor alterations of land and those that may take place in order to prepare fields for rice cultivation. As the lead agency for the project under CEQA, the Delta Conservancy Board is required to make independent findings represented by Resolution 2023-01 and file a notice of exemption, which can be found on pages 55 and 54 of your board packets received. The notice of exemption, you'll notice, lists all Delta counties where growers may enroll in the Delta rice conversion program. And this is a similar approach to the one taken by California Department of Food and Agriculture's Healthy Soils program. If the board adopts the resolutions finding the project is categorically exempt, the board chair will sign the resolution and the notice of exemption, which staff will then post with the state clearinghouse and on the Delta Conservancy's website.
Given the community, climate, and ecological benefits of the proposed rice conversion program, staff are recommending that the board adopt resolution 2023-01, grant the requested waivers for reporting the landowner access agreement and the 15-year maintenance standard, and award funding for this project. There is suggested motion language for 4 separate motions, and we need all 4 at the bottom of page 52 of your agenda packet for your consideration. Before we do that, I'm happy to take any comments or questions.
Ma'am.
So, in the spirit of the reason why rice cultivation is so good is because it helps with subsidence. So my question is, and this is just me being curious, is if a farmer does it for say 3 to 5 years, but then rotates something out, have we studied the progress we make on subsidence when they rotate out of something else and then rotate? You know, my question's not fully baked, but do you understand what I'm saying? It's like,
I think so. Yeah, I had a similar question. So we get the benefits for the 3 to 5 years that they're in rice, and then it'll go back to it won't go back, but then when they're, let's say corn, complementation would be.
Right.
So the land can stay in rice ready condition. They can put corn in. So we'll have, you know, the 1 or 2 years that they're in that rotation, it'll continue to subside, and then we'll have the greenhouse.
so there is more subsidence once the rice goes away.
I wouldn't say it's more, it would be like the normal amount that.
Yeah. And so then, but I'm thinking out loud, so please bear with me. I'm hearing rice is a really good crop right now, and so that it is something that farmers are gonna be interested in pursuing. Okay.
Yeah, it was a heavy
As long as
topic.
we got water.
As long as we got water.
No better for. Okay, go ahead, Lynn.
Couple of questions. Is the applicant free to use these funds on their own lands? Or is this external of the Nature Conservancy's lands?
This would be external to them. So this is, the intent of it is to get other private landowners access to conversions.
Okay, I was just thinking of any potential conflict of interest here. That's in the agreement.
Yeah. And if it's not, we can't put them there.
And then number 2 is, I saw the 3 to 5 year term. The applicant have any data or information on, once you put a crop in, how long it actually stays before being rotated out? So are we looking at I know in this case, we're looking at a minimum of 3 to 5 years, depending on the bat taken, but what is the potential maximum? I'm just wondering.
Like so the potential maximum, if they can rotate every 3 to 5 years, the potential maximum is indefinite because the land can stay ready to cultivate rice. So they can rotate it in
because
indefinitely.
It's been graded and.
Yeah.
Because
they'll already have the infrastructure in place. I don't know how long they could keep it in rice cultivation continuously without rotation, but this was something that was discussed at the subsidence meeting that the Delta Science Council ISB just had. And there was a panel and this question got brought up, and it was like 3 to 5 years, you should be rotating crops. That's what they said. A lot of farmers like to do it in 3, but maximum of 5.
There's anecdotal evidence that there are people growing in the Delta that have kept it in rotation for a lot longer than that. And I think it is sort of almost a learning process to just get more established understanding and acceptance of potentially leaving it to achieve those benefits in longer rotations too.
And they're experimenting with cover crops to try and extend that time. I know the UC Ag Extension is working on Staten Island and trying to explore that as an option for cover crops.
In conversations with the applicant, they've also discussed with us that there is some, not say hesitancy, but some risk to the farmers if they were to pay out of pocket to do this rice conversion. So doing this, paying for that conversion or offsetting the cost of the conversion would get farmers into rice cultivation, and then they can share with the community, farming community, their benefits or successes that they've had with this. So this kind of also, I think, would support a kind of, I won't say regime shift, but a shift in the community potentially to be able to cultivate more rice.
Thank you. Couple of questions. First of all, I appreciate the discussion, and I think that the anecdotal evidence is also that you have fields north of the airport that are in rice production year after year after year after year after year. But I'm just curious as to whether or not we know, because I didn't see it in the staff report, what exactly could this grant be buying with respect to the farmers? I mean, is it infrastructure as far as irrigation or berms or grading, as was mentioned? Is it incentives just to say, hey, we'll pay you to go to rice farming?
So TNC on Staten Island have been evaluating, doing some analysis on the cost to convert, and so they have estimates. Maximum would be about $800 an acre. So that includes the land leveling, it includes like the berms that are needed to hold the water in, the ditches, the irrigation, all those things. So the landowners would be receiving the true cost of conversion up to a certain dollar amount, which will be probably about 800 an acre.
Okay, I was told there'd be no math this morning, so I can't quite do that in my head. Divided by 800. So that's 5,000 acres, roughly $4 million, 800 an acre, get about 5,000 acres. So, and we estimated, I think, 3,500 to 7,000 acres, right, the ballpark. But I guess I'm coming back to the 3 to 5 years of the waiver of the 15-year maintenance, in that if this, would it be more likely for a farmer to return back to rice cultivation once this infrastructure has been put in for them? I mean, obviously, if they have to come out of it for it, it'd be less likely, but is it anecdotal at least that they would be more likely to continue this going forward even without a requirement?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
As long as there's still money in it and there's still water around.
Well, and that's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's the
Yeah.
deal, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, farming's a business. We'd love for them to stay in rice forever, but it's a business. And so as long as that crop's paying, yeah.
And that's been a part of our conversation as well as some of the hesitancies for the farmers to commit to longer than 5 years is the market, the rice market, the price. If they had to do more than that, they could be financially ruined if they were committed to that. So this provides them some of that flexibility to do that. So I call it more like tools in their tool belt to make the funding, but also gives them a definite opportunity.
Based on Leo's question, I think the Nature Conservancy owns quite a bit of land. And so if they did want to use it on their land, maybe put a limit of what percentage of this money goes to their land versus to farmers, if that was also an issue. I'm just kind of done.
One of the issues that you run into is that, and it happens a lot in my county, especially with cattle, not rice. But you run into a lot of lease land, farmer might only own 100 acres on his farm, but he leases 3,000 acres to grow on. And so he may be, some of this money might be used to convert land that is land that's owned by the Conservancy, but is leased to that farmer. So for the purposes of that business, it should be held, I believe, as part of their farm, not considered a conflict of interest, because they're literally paying for the right to be able to do
So
it.
maybe put some, because we're really trying to, my interpretation is that this is an incentive program to help farmers be able to convert. And so we want to make sure it goes far and wide.
Yeah, and I would say maybe then that the consideration would be that it be limited specifically to the physical conversion of the property, right? Rather than, something that can be used for anything. But it has to go specifically to the physical conversion of the property.
So just another point, was not mentioned in the staff report, but I assume that there will be wildlife benefits associated with this program.
Sure.
Oh, yeah, especially migratory.
Yeah.
Yeah, Be all happy.
Specifically, they'll ask the applicants to flood and drain on.
What season's coming?
Yeah, no, there'd be a conflict of interest. I was not on any of that rice. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Kidding. Gonna get horrible with
You
it.
got all excited.
Anyway, I got us off topic. So,
And again, I've got that written down too.
Well,
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I'm a giver, so I promise to do my part and eat more sushi in order to keep. my commodities up. So with that, I'll move that the board adopt resolution 2023-01, which finds the Delta Rice Conversion Program is categorically exempt from environmental review under CEQA pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Chapter 3, Article 19, Section 15313, subsections A and C.
I will take that motion really quick, though. I'm gonna say, is there any public comment?
Oh, I apologize.
No, that's all right.
No hands raised.
I don't wanna get in trouble with the boss over here. I don't see no hands raised. Okay, so then I'm looking for a second.
I'll sec, oh,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Leah.
I'll move for the second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, man.
Do I
We're
have
gonna
to
go
read it out?
fast here.
No,
Nope.
okay, he already did it once.
So we have 3 more motions after.
We're gonna do
Can we-
each motion separate.
Should we do them?
Okay.
Can we do?
Can we
them all
bundle them
together?
up?
Nicole,
Nicole, can we bundle them?
we can.
Oh,
Actually, not all of them need to be read.
Yeah, just read them.
Then I further move that the board approve the applicant's request to waive the requirement for recording a land acceptance agreement against the deed of the property conditional upon the Conservancy receiving and approving a landowner access agreement for the length of the contract between the applicant and landowner of the properties, parenthetical 3 to 5 years.
Second?
Second.
And I then move to approve the applicant's request to waive the 15-year maintenance standard of a project.
Second.
And finally, I move that the board approve and award funding up to $4,333,124 to the Nature Conservancy for the Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant Program for the Delta Rice Conversion Program.
Does it make it more complicated if there's okay, I'll second that.
Oh,
Does it make it more complicated? Cause we can put Leo in there. I'm speaking for him right now.
done. Okay.
All right, good.
We're going to vote for them all together, though.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Chair Mashburn?
All right,
Hold on.
wait.
Make sure you take public comment on all of the motions before you vote.
Any public comment on all of those motions?
No hands
Seeing none,
raised.
I'm good.
Thanks. Nicole.
See, I didn't have a good.
To demand that question?
The boss.
Okay. Chair Mashburn?
Aye.
Vice Chair Winternitz?
Yes.
Supervisor Hume?
Aye.
Supervisor Burgess?
Yes.
Supervisor Ding?
Aye.
Board Member Martin?
Aye.
Board Member Udang?
Aye.
We have 7 ayes, the motion carries.
All right, thank you all. That brings us to consideration of the California Environmental Quality Act Lead Agency Exemption Declaration and Award of Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant for Land Acquisition on Bethel Island.
Okay, that's me again, Lauren Damon, the Erica Project Supervisor. This presentation is for agenda item 10, the land acquisition on Bethel Island, starting on page 57 of your board packet. This project is proposed for Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant funding. The project is located in Contra Costa County and is requested by the John Muir Land Trust. Conservancy staff recommends that the board approve lead agency findings and an award up to $2,202,091 in grant funding for this project. The proposed project seeks to purchase a 600-acre property on Bethel Island for the purposes of future wetland restoration. Acquisition is the first step in a multi-step process to create wetlands, riparian forest, and sand dunes on this parcel. After the wetlands are constructed and the landscape re-wetted, the managed wetlands will reverse subsidence and reduce greenhouse gas emissions in line with the goals of the Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant Funding Solicitation. The project will also protect native and special status species and provide recreational opportunities for Bethel Island residents and disadvantaged communities on and adjacent to the island. John Muir Land Trust has initiated outreach by sending a postcard to all Bethel Island residents, making them aware of the future project, and the Land Trust intends to conduct more outreach after the transfer of ownership is complete in order to engage the community in the planning process. They have received a letter of support from the Contra Costa County Board of Supervisors and from the current landowner, who is a willing seller that desires to have this property converted to wetlands and permanently protected as open space. The current owners and their family have been using the property as an organic farm and cattle ranch and are seeking to downsize their operations. After purchase, the parcel will have permanent environmental protection and stewardship by the John Muir Land Trust and through recording of a notice of unrecorded grant agreement with the Delta Conservancy. The applicant is also applying for $6,090,000 in cost share from the Wildlife Conservation Board to support the purchase. The Delta Conservancy staff have been in communication with staff at the Wildlife Conservation Board and expect the project to go before their board for approval by early 2024. I'm going to now hand it off to Rachel Wigginton again to discuss environmental compliance and permitting.
Great, thanks, Lauren. So the Hoover Ranch Land Acquisition Project is considered a project under the California Environmental Quality Act. As the public agency with the principal responsibility for approving this project, the Delta Conservancy would be the lead CEQA agency. Based on our review of the materials submitted by the applicant, staff have concluded that the project is exempt from environmental review under CEQA, which categorically exempts certain projects from environmental review, including acquisition of lands for wildlife conservation purposes, including preservation of fish and wildlife habitat, or preserving access to public lands and waters, where the purpose of the acquisition is to preserve the land in its natural condition. As the lead agency for the project under CEQA, the Delta Conservancy is required to make independent findings, which are represented by Resolution 2023-02, and file a notice of exemption, which can be found on pages 62 and 61 of your board packet respectively. If the board adopts the resolution finding the project is categorically exempt, the board chair will then sign the resolution and notice of exemption, which staff will post with the state clearinghouse and on the Delta Conservancy's website.
Staff are recommending that the board adopt resolution 2023-02 and award funding for this project. There is suggested motion language again for two separate motions at the bottom of page 59 of your agenda packet for your consideration. But before that, I'm happy to take questions or comments.
Any questions from the public? Any questions from everybody out there in the internet land? In no hands. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to make a comment. The John Muir Land Trust is a very respected organization that does great work. And I've been aware of this project, and they've done, they haven't been just checking the boxes. They've been leaning in to do all the right things. So I just wanted to acknowledge that Linus is here. And when it's time, I'd like to make the motions.
It's time. Yeah.
Is it time?
That's pretty much it.
Time, okay. I'd like to make a motion that we move that the board adopt resolution 2023-02, which finds that land acquisition of Bethel Island is categorically exempt from environmental review under the California Environmental Quality Act pursuant to California Code of Regulations, Title 14, Chapter 3, Article 19, Section 15313, subsections A and C. I would also like to move that the board approve and award funding up to $2,202,091 to the John Muir Land Trust from the Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant Funding for the land acquisition on Bethel Island. Nicole.
We gotta take public comment.
Two things. One, public comment, and in the case of your CEQA findings versus project approval, you should first vote on the CEQA findings and then second vote on the project approval.
Okay, so I couldn't do both of them at the same time.
I'm running amok today. Any public comment on either of those two items? No.
No hand
All right.
raised.
So
As to the.
I will second the first motion.
Okay, so I've got you as the second. First motion, we should vote on that, she said first. So, Chair Mashburn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Winterness,
Yes.
Supervisor Hume,
Aye.
Supervisor Burgess,
Aye.
Supervisor Ding,
Aye.
Board Member Martin,
Aye.
and Board Member Udang.
Aye.
Motion carries with 7 ayes.
Do I need to do the second motion?
I will second the second motion.
You guys make it so easy for me. Okay, do we have to do public comment again? No? Okay, Chair Mashburn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Winternitz,
Aye.
Supervisor Hume,
Aye.
Supervisor Burgess,
Aye.
Supervisor Ding,
Aye.
Board Member Udang,
Aye.
And Board Member Martin.
Aye.
I mixed that one up, didn't I? The 7 ayes, the motion carries.
All right, thank you all. Next up is consideration of the California Environmental Quality Act Lead Agency Exemption Declaration and award of nature-based solutions wetland restoration grant funds for the Wetland West Restoration Project on Staten Island.
Chair Mashburn, do you mind if Lynn is able to say something?
Oh.
Since he's in the room.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you, Chair Mashburn. Lonnie Schukel, Executive Director for Young Red Cross. Just grateful for the opportunity to say thank you here on behalf of our Board of Directors to do exactly that. And to say we're on our way towards a wonderful restoration project. Thanks to you, specifically Supervisor Burgess and all of her assistants in leading in, as she described it, and also to the Delta Conservancy staff, Lauren, Rachel, Sarah, and of course Campbell. They've been terrific to work with. I'm disappointed that our own staff, Lisa Loma, is home protecting you from a cold virus. She'd otherwise been here. They all together built up these project documents. And again, we are truly grateful for the support. We're going to make the most of it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for the comments. All right.
Okay. Last one. Again, Lauren Damon, just for the record, the Erica Project Supervisor. My final presentation for board consideration is agenda item 11, a recommendation to award nature-based solutions wetland restoration grant funding for the Staten Island Wetland Restoration Project, which is located in San Joaquin County. The project is proposed by the Nature Conservancy and can be found starting on page 64 of your agenda packet. Conservancy staff recommends that the board approve lead agency findings and award up to $6,753,396 in grant funding for this project. The proposed project seeks to convert 426 acres of existing agriculture to wetlands that will reverse organic soil subsidence and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. As previously mentioned, these are the goals of the Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant Funding. This proposed project is the second phase of a multi-phase project. The first phase will be complete in spring of 2024 and included planning, which was funded by California Department of Fish and Wildlife Proposition 1 grant. Environmental compliance is being completed as part of that phase 1, and Rachel will provide us with more information on that later. Planning covered a nearly 900-acre portion of Staten Island that included both rice and wetlands. In a future phase, the Nature Conservancy will be seeking private funding for the rice and about 320 acres of wetlands. The current proposed project, which includes 426 acres, is planned with public funding. The Nature Conservancy will conduct a comparison of costs and timelines between the private and publicly funded projects to help guide others, including private landowners, on startup costs and access to the carbon market for carbon farming. The Nature Conservancy will register carbon credits on the voluntary carbon market as a showcase to other interested landowners of possible revenue streams on subsided islands. The Nature Conservancy has already initiated outreach efforts and has received numerous letters of support, including from the California and Solano County Farm Bureaus, the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors, the Delta Counties Coalition, local landowners, and numerous environmental and non-profit organizations. They're also actively engaging our tribal partners. Staten Island is a 9,200 acre island with about 8,500 acres currently in agriculture. TNC is seeking to convert the southeastern corner of the islands to wetlands, since that area is deeply subsided and ongoing farming in that area is unsustainable. By constructing wetlands on the part of the island that has become too wet to farm, this project supports the ongoing agriculture on the remainder of the island by preventing further subsidence, accreting the soil, and being a source of fresh water for irrigation, while also generating revenue through carbon farming and fluidiculture. The island is currently under both a DWR conservation easement and a Williamson Act contract. Given that this small portion of the island is no longer viable for agriculture and wetlands will support the viability of agriculture on the rest of the island, the project is consistent with both the DWR conservation easement and the Williamson Act contract. I will now hand it off to Rachel to discuss environmental compliance and permitting.
Hello again. Thanks, Lauren. The Staten Island Wetland Restoration Project is considered a project under the California Environmental Quality Act. As the public agency with the principal responsibility for approving the project during this phase, the Delta Conservancy will be the CEQA lead agency. Senate Bill 155 was added a section to the California Public Resource Code, which provided a new California Environmental Quality Act statutory exemption for fish and wildlife restoration projects that meet certain requirements. The statutory exemption for restoration projects is referred to as SERP. SERP is a part of a group of tools intended to cut the green tape and expedite the implementation of beneficial ecological restoration projects across the state of California. Based on staff's review of the materials submitted by the applicant and in consultation with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's Cutting the Green Tape team, staff concluded the project would be a good fit to pursue this new statutory exemption. In collaboration with the project proponents, the Nature Conservancy, staff submitted a request for concurrence to the California Department of Fish and Wildlife's executive director, asking the director to concur that the project met the requirements of the new statutory exemption. The full concurrence request can be found starting on page 72 of your packet. The director's concurrence was given yesterday and can be found on the SERP website, which is linked on page 65 of the board packet. Having received CDFW director's concurrence, the Delta Conservancy, as the lead agency for a project under CEQA, is required to make independent findings represented by Resolution 2023-03 and file a notice of exemption. The resolution and notice of exemption can be found on pages 70 and 69 of the board packet respectively. If the board adopts the resolution finding the project statutorily exempt, the board chair will sign the resolution and the notice of exemption, which will then post to the state clearinghouse and on the Delta Conservancy's website.
Given the ecological and climate benefits of the proposed wetland restoration to Staten Island project, staff are recommending that the board adopt resolution 2023-03 and award funding for this project. There is suggested motion language for 2 separate motions at the bottom of page 67. Happy to take comments.
Any questions from the board?
I think the SERP is really great in that it saves money. People are, and it's also helping streamline getting this stuff done. So those projects aren't gonna cost more as we try to, do it. So it's just my observation that the SERP is helping things move along and it's saving a lot of money, so.
And CDFW's Cutting the Green Tape team is sending like surveys to folks who pursue SERP, asking to them to estimate how much money they save. So they are gathering data to be able to report that out, like how successful at saving money and streamlining things the program is.
I'm glad they're doing that.
Thank you. This question is not necessarily project related and might not even have any specific elements, but when we're talking about converting back to wetlands, is that still maintaining a levee structure between the primary rivers and the land itself? Yeah. And so it would be flooding out the land, but not necessarily allowing a natural ebb and flow. Okay, I think that's important to know because there are some of us on this board that have a very vested interest in maintaining and enhancing that natural freshwater pathway, getting freshwater from the upper delta to the lower delta. And so I want to make sure that we are not working against ourselves.
There you go.
And actually restoring wetlands in those areas near the levees is going to reduce some of that hydrostatic pressure potentially on the levees, especially in these areas that are too wet to farm. It can really enhance levee maintenance.
Great.
So I appreciate the Nature Conservancy's initiative to show what is possible in the most subsided parts of the Delta, creating wetlands, still maintaining the levees within their property and growing rice. Growing rice for a number of reasons. What concerns all of us, of course, are those most deeply subsided areas. With that, I'd like to approve the motion.
All right, let me ask you real quick. I got a hand up over here and I gotta ask for public comment. She's waiting, right? I'm gonna get hit with a gavel again. Yeah, okay.
Remember your day.
Go ahead, Rude.
Trying to unmute myself. So first, just thank you to the staff for going after this Cutting the Green Tape initiative and really trying to be at the forefront of this. It's very important and crucial, especially for areas like our Delta that historically get bombarded with red tape all the time when we try to do anything good in the area. So thank you for taking that on. And then just to echo the flood maintenance and levee structures, improving wetlands is so crucial to that entire ecosystem and making sure that we are safe and ready. So just appreciative of the board's work, the staff's work, and just want to thank you all.
All right. Any public comment on either of these two items?
No additional hands raised.
I don't see any hands raised. Okay. All right. So we have a motion on first. Do we have a second? Yes.
Liliana, do you want to second it?
Yes, please.
So I have alternates and Udang. And roll call, Chair Mashburn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Winternitz,
Aye.
Supervisor Hume,
Aye.
Supervisor Burgess,
Aye.
Supervisor Ding,
Aye.
Board Member Martin.
Aye.
Board Member Udang.
Aye.
Motion carries with 7.
All right, and then we have a second portion to that. Don't we, is this a two?
Yes, we do. We have a
No,
second.
just one on this one, okay.
No,
No, that was the motion for the
Two.
CEQA. The second motion is for the.
Oh, the second one's for the money. Uh,
Supervisor
make-
Ding, you want to do it?
You want to do that one?
Does Amanda want to do one? Okay, just checking.
All right, I'm gonna do it.
Yes, ma'am.
I got
I will make the motion that we move that the board award of funding up to $6,753,396 to the Nature Conservancy from the Nature-Based Solutions Wetland Restoration Grant funding for the Wetland Restoration Project on Staten Island.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Oh, we got all kinds of seconds.
All right, who do I have on a second?
Martin.
Amanda, there, Martin, sorry. Okay, Chair Mashburn,
Aye.
Vice Chair Winternitz,
Aye.
Supervisor Hume,
Yes.
Supervisor Burgess,
Aye.
Supervisor Ding.
Aye.
Sorry, my head's down here. Board Member Martin.
Aye.
Board Member Udang.
Aye.
Am I saying Hume correctly? Is it Hume?
I haven't noticed you saying it incorrectly,
Okay,
so yes.
I just checking, as I said that. 7 ayes, motion
I've
carries.
traumatized her.
You might not know that. How much? How do you?
All right, thank you all for that. That brings us to, potential items for our next meeting.
I guess I want to go back and just, I want to thank staff for all the work that they did on that CERT process. All these projects take a tremendous amount of work, but that was really a Herculean effort to prepare that package and then shepherd it through the Department of Fish and Wildlife. All the agencies working together. It was really a great thing and really historic, only the second one that's been done in the Delta, so. All right, so number 12, potential agenda items, of course, sort of our standing items and potential to award additional nature-based solution or community enhancement grant funding. As I mentioned earlier, we do hope to bring a draft solicitation notice for the wildfire funding for your consideration so that we can open that solicitation as soon as possible. We do want to develop some criteria, similar to the way that we did for the landowner access agreement to waive that 15-year requirement. And we would bring that for board consideration. And as always, at the beginning of the year, we bring an update for the implementation plan or an update of the strategic plan, as well as a draft implementation plan for the coming calendar year. So we will bring that back to the board at that time too. Open up for anything else that the board would like us to consider or information they'd like us to provide at the next meeting. Happy to.
Anything from the board? Anything from the board online? Oh, a lot of nodding heads, no. All right, well, then that brings us to one more shot at public comment. Anybody else want to address the board on any item that was not on the agenda, the purview of this board? Please come on up, ma'am, or just.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I just wanted to say on behalf of the Nature Conservancy, I'd like to express our deep gratitude for awarding funding for our rice conversion program and for the wetland restoration project at Staten Island. I think we all know here that climate change and ground subsidence pose significant threats in the Delta to wildlife, to Delta communities, and to Californians at large. And with these funds, we'll be able to elevate the acceleration of rice in the Delta, restore wetlands at Staten Island to create and enhance vital habitat for migratory birds, stop ground subsidence, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. We're excited to use this work as a learning laboratory to help scale these efforts across California and really demonstrate how farming can be maintained in the Delta in the face of climate change and ground subsidence. So thank you for the opportunity to bring these projects forward, and thank you for your support.
Could you let me know who you are?
Oh, I'm sorry, Cindy. My name is Cindy Chamberlain. I'm with the Nature Conservancy.
All right, thank you. Anybody else online?
Pronounced Chamberlain.
Never gonna live that down. Never.
I got your back.
I just wanted to note I have no board directives from this meeting today.
Yes, ma'am. And I have no more public comment, so we're to adjournment. We're on a 3-hour tour, right?